Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is Darren Doctorman.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious
Treksperts.
And this week, it's Walker in L.A. Walker in L.A. No, that doesn't quite work. But, as many of you may have heard, Paramount Pictures has recently acquired Warner Brothers, in the process of acquiring them, subject to final approvals. But Jeff Walker was someone who was at the center of Warner Brothers for many years and has worked on amazing genre projects. He's kind of the Eddie Egan of Warner Brothers. We're going to be talking to him in just a few minutes. But before that, we got a little housekeeping to take care of.
Very little.
Housekeeping.
First of all, for those of you watching on Spotify video or on YouTube, I want to point out that Darren Doctorman is wearing a Commander Koenig Moonbase Alpha.
I'm actually Commander Walter Koenig.
Man.
Oh my God! There's Russians in the moon base.
Yeah, that's right.
They've taken over our moon base.
He was there, so Russians were already there.
That's true. That's true. Because Pravda was complaining there were no Russians on Space
right.
1999, so they hired him. So this is going to be a great episode. Before we bring on some special guests, I want to read you just the latest letter. We've been getting so many of these, and I probably should read more than one an episode. But this is from Justin Nicolosi. Nicolosi. I'm sorry, Justin. If you've been listening to the show for a long time, as it seems you have, you know that I don't pronounce things very well. It's a badge of honor. Okay. Dear Inglorious Treksperts, my name is Justin Nicolosi. That's what it is. Yeah, Nicolosi. That's her. I just wanted to, he's never going to listen to it again. I'm so sorry, Justin. I just wanted to reach out to you and say thank you for having the best Star Trek podcast out there. Not only have I learned so much about the franchise I love, but I love you guys in a small way, have kept my grandfather's memory alive. Oh, not only have I learned so much about the franchise I love, but you guys in a small way have kept my grandfather's memory alive. Let me explain. My grandfather of 40 years ago first introduced me to TOS in the original 3 movies as he took me in 1986 to my first ever movie in theaters, The Voyage Home. That was the one with the whales, by the way. I was 5 years old, but just captivated at seeing my heroes on the big screen. Then TNG came out in a new series that me and my grandfather could bond over. I remember being excited seeing the saucer separate and yet also wondering what the plot was at 6 years old. Yeah, that's true. Nonetheless, it was a show we watched together every night for 7 years live as it aired on Saturday nights in Pittsburgh on our local CBS affiliate. While watching the show, we built the Enterprise D model kit, which is something I still have and will cherish forever. Sadly, my grandfather passed away a few years ago and did not get to see the Enterprise D return in Picard Season 3, which I know he would have loved. For when I saw it, I cried as I looked at the Enterprise D model on my bookshelf. So when I hear you guys talk Trek and everything that goes along with it, I'm reminded of all the good times with my grandfather, and to me, it keeps his spirit alive, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you, and keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course, Justin Nicolosi.
Aw.
That's a nice letter. That's a nice letter. We've been getting so many of these, and it's lovely to see, what an impact we've had on people. And I have to say, I really relate because, of course, as I've mentioned before on the show, my grandfather took me to my first Star Trek convention. And even though he wasn't a big Star Trek fan, I have a lot of Star Trek memories that are tied up with my grandfather took me to conventions and just, was didn't look down on my my interest in Star Trek.
Was he more of a Lost in Space fan?
No, he's more of a New York Jets fan. He had
Oh,
season tickets,
right.
but at the same, it's long suffering, much as we were. But when it came to Star Trek, but he was, it's great to see, the nostalgia for a lot of people and how it connects them with those in their lives that they've lost and how much Star Trek means to them. So it's and how much this podcast means to them, which is, I never expected these letters to become sort of testimonials to us, to the show, but more towards Star Trek. But it's really lovely that they're doing that. And speaking of which, we're going to be announcing in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing a massive 60th anniversary survey to determine the top 60 episodes of all time, where you'll pick the winner. So follow our social channels at linktree.com /Treksperts Plus, and we'll be dropping that in the next couple of weeks. We'll be announcing that. And also, congratulations to the whole team behind Land the Shuttlecraft. What a success that was, wasn't it?
Amazing. Yesterday, they finished the campaign with close to $300,000.
So happy for
that's
them.
awesome. You could buy a Lambo with that.
You can actually make the shuttlecraft fly to outer space at that
Probably.
point.
Yeah, not quite, but now we actually got to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's so exciting. Can't wait to see it find its home in Ticonderoga, and just a great job by everyone involved, and spearheaded by the great Brian Mix, and Mazel Tov to you. We're very, very excited about this. And next is going to be Moonbase Alpha, the tour that DAREN is going to be setting up in Vegas. No.
Expect to get blown out of orbit.
It was just a thought. Okay, well, listen, this is very exciting. A couple of weeks ago, you may recall, we had the Treksperts Juniors on the show. These are
before you do that, we have a special day.
Oh, we do. We have a special day. Surely the best of times. Do you want to say why it's so special?
Happy birthday to Ashley Edward Miller.
Thanks, man.
How old are you? 32?
Yeah. I'm the youngest captain ever to command a starship.
He's still 29 years old. I'm flummoxed that you would be recording on your birthday, but I'm deeply grateful.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I would not record on my birthday. So I'm really glad. But to help celebrate, we have two little mini Treksperts.
Yeah, we do.
And they are, of course, the Treksperts Junior. They were on the show a couple of weeks ago where they told us about their first Trek experience, watching The Cage and Where No Man Has Gone Before. And they are good at following orders. They watched a couple episodes since then, and we want to find out the latest and greatest from your brood about what they think of some of the more recent episodes. So without any further ado, let's bring on our junior Treksperts, Ensigns Miller and Miller. Hello, boys. Hey, guys. So I understand you've been keeping on trekking. Tell us about what you've seen recently. Locke?
Oh, you glitched out for
They're
a second
frozen.
there.
Like in Carbonite? Wrong franchise.
There you are.
What?
Nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
confused.
Okay,
That's
anyways. So we watched The Cage. Well, The Cage and the
Where No Man Has
Where
Gone
No Man
Before.
Has Gone
But we
Before.
talked about those.
Man Trap is after that?
The Man Trap, right.
Okay.
Salt and Pepper.
And Salt and Pepper. I'm kind of sad that was the last species and they murdered it.
Like the buffalo. They murdered it. That's such a good point you made. It's true. It's like, how years later Roddenberry would talk about the model kit he hated. Maybe DAREN, you can say it better. Why would Spock be attacking this?
Why would Spock be shooting a phaser at this three-headed serpent creature? It's not good. Not good form, Mr. Spock.
And then later he talks about killing the SETI eel. Wouldn't we study it, right? But the Man Trap, they just killed the last buffalo. It's
they don't just kill it; they punch it in the face a few times.
Right. They slap it.
And then they kill it.
And they say she's like an Arcturus 6. It's not. It's just they're just rude to it.
I mean, to be fair, she is kind of trying to kill them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right,
and
Kate?
suck the salt out of their broth.
You mean
What?
That's right.
They eat salt.
They eat salt.
I know, but I'm saying.
But here's my question for you. In the future, when we can replicate things, couldn't they just keep feeding it salt and it would be friendly and docile? It's kind of like in Rudolph.
Salt shakers.
Remember in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer how the Abominable is like really evil in the beginning, and he's scary and he's terrible and he's going to kill us. But then they befriend the Abominable and he becomes our friend. It's like, couldn't they have done that with the salt monster?
Pretty sure.
And
yes.
Another episode we watched after that was Charlie X, I believe, is after that, or is that wrong?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
So what was your feelings about Charlie X, guys?
What we like about it?
Mm-hmm.
Was Charlie your darling?
What?
That's a line from the show. It's a line from the show.
So anyway, so tell us about Charlie X, buds.
Like the fact that he had powers because just the fact that I don't know how he was doing it, like what he was doing. I hate that he just made people go into a random void.
Well, that's because you never saw the Twilight Zone episode, The Good Life.
That's right.
The Good Life.
Summary of the episode: basically, boy deletes some people, gets captured, gets sent back to place he doesn't want.
I'm kind of sad that he didn't get a second chance. Well, he kind of did. He got multiple chances.
Well, and Captain Kirk was like, "Please leave him. Don't take him." And that the Thasians are like, "The hell with you guys. We're taking Charlie. He can't live with you guys." At least Captain Kirk tries to, advocate for him after everything he's done. He's killed all those people, but they still try and.
Yeah, the Thasians are like,
but he sucks, Captain Kirk, and we are taking him back with us.
Yeah. But did you? And a lot of lessons. Captain Kirk was sort of like a father figure to Charlie, teaching him these valuable lessons. Did you find anything that was helpful that maybe your dad didn't teach you?
To listen to him.
Oh, to listen.
Yeah.
You know what I like?
Yeah, he learned a big lesson not to do that. And now he's back where he hates.
I like when he says there are a million things in this world you can have, and there are a million things you can't. So next time you want that Lego at Toys R Us, no way, can't have it. A million things you can't have. No, that's not that lesson.
And then we watched The Naked Time, which honestly I really love that one because. I just like Sulu, he just like ha ha ha. You wanna fight me?
So you like Sulu because he got the sword fight.
He likes to get drunk and fight people naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He takes off his clothes and fights the police, just like your old man.
And then just that dude just singing, spinning around in a wheel in a chair with the wheels that's spinning.
Yeah.
And just singing something random.
Do you want to sing that for us now? You want to sing it? We'll all sing it together. You ready? We're gonna sing the song. It's very important to know this song. For one day you'll be all home again, Kathleen. Okay, maybe not. Daren's sitting there. He's like, I'm not doing this. I may be wearing a Commander Koenig uniform, but I am not karaokeing I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen. He's waiting for Good Night, Sweetheart when they get to City on the Edge.
So he's just saying, I'll take you home again, Kathleen.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Did you find it was interesting that this disease sort of strips away, like where their most innermost thoughts that they're hiding from everybody, they reveal because of this disease?
Yes, I did like that.
Wait, that's what I didn't. I didn't even know. Wait, it was so basically it was just like unleashing their inner wants.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sulu wanted to fight someone naked.
Sulu wanted to have lines.
Yes,
He desperately wanted to have lines and get something to do. So he wanted to kill Captain Kirk. That was really his want.
I stabbed him running through with my ripping.
Oh my! But yeah, Spock, was hiding all these emotions that are buried deep. That he, and Captain Kirk, in love with the Enterprise, and he all that he sacrificed for his love of the ship. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, no,
He loves. You might be right.
Yeah.
No,
But
you guys.
Spock, Spock. It's just why would you hide emotions?
Because he's a Vulcan, and it's bad for Vulcans to show emotion.
That's right.
Well, guys, we know you want to celebrate your dad's birthday, and we're so glad that you are enjoying your Star Trek marathon, and we're going to check in with you again in a couple of weeks. And
There's one more episode.
Oh, one more. Okay.
Yeah. This is Locke's favorite.
It's called.
It's not about man. Oh, it's that one.
The Enemy Within.
The Enemy Within.
Now, tell me what you liked about that.
Griffin.
It was kind of stressful to Griffin.
I did not like that episode.
Why is that?
it just, for some reason, it really stressed me out with the evil Captain Kirk scenes.
Do you think the message of that episode is accurate, that you need both sides of your personality, the good and the bad?
Yes, that is accurate. That is accurate.
Yeah, because the like and also the music is just so ominous. Like the music is kind of get ominous when he's around.
Yeah.
And what would you guys, if you were split into good and bad, how would you be different?
My opposite would probably
your opposite would probably
just be
nice.
Burn down a town.
What?
Oh my God. No wonder that was your favorite episode. Okay, well, guys, I am so glad that because you'll just see that Star Trek, spoiler alert, keeps getting better in the first season, and as they discover what the show is, and there's some really great episodes coming up. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about them. So you're going to keep up your Star Trek journey?
Yes.
Wait, what is after the enemy within?
Mud's women. The women.
Mud's women.
Isn't that right, Darren? Am I wrong?
I think so. Harry Mudd, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll find out that Pop and J Leo
We'll
Walsh.
tomorrow, boys.
Yeah, you'll see it tomorrow, and we'll
You're
hear.
just confusing them. Mark.
You'll like Harry Mudd.
You'll figure out it's good. We'll figure out if it's
well,
good.
well, guys, we're so thrilled to have you join us. We know where to find you. We look forward to having you back, and keep on trekking, and gloriously, of course.
Good night, boys. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you had it. Our junior Treksperts filling us in on what they loved about Star Trek. Thank you for sharing them with us on your birthday.
Yeah.
And now
in our episode for the World is Podcast, and I have to go to bed.
For the World is Podcast, and I have touched this guy. Wait, what? That's not right.
No.
Okay. On that note, I'm so glad that we have a really special guest. It's funny because I've known our next guest for not just years, decades. And even before I knew him as a friend, I used to work with him when I had my magazine, my fanzine as a kid, the Galactic Journal, and later Sci-Fi Universe and Cinefantastic, and worked with him at Warner Brothers. And he was always one of the great guys that you could rely on because he loved this genre so much. And when I think of Warner Brothers, I think of this our next guest. And I reconnected with him recently at the Saturn Awards. Darren, unfortunately, was sick from the cruise, so he wasn't able to join us. We missed you.
I missed a good one.
You missed a really good show, and I'd lie and say it wasn't good, but
No, I saw the pictures.
So it was a great George Lucas, Bill Shatner, just terrific, and it was great to connect with Jeff, and I thought it would be great to have him on the show. So do you guys know Jeff, by the way? Have you must know Jeff?
I met him a long time ago.
No, he was super helpful when Free Enterprise came out. He was really supportive and helped us because at the same time his own son's movie was debuting. So they had a lot of a little bit of overlap as well. So anyway, without any further ado, I don't want to keep him waiting. Let's bring on the great Jeff Walker.
Hey,
and there he is. Hello.
Oh.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Same to you.
Did you hear any of my introduction?
Yeah, I did, and a little bit of the kids signing off. One of the great things about being a boomer of my age is I was there when it first aired. So.
Yeah, what was your feelings? Because you're a huge sci-fi genre fan, as is your wife Kim. What was sort of your gateway drug?
Oh God, for me it was always there. As far as when I was growing up in New York, it's every day on television on the $1 Million Movie, you were likely to see any of the old Warner Brothers gangster pictures or King Kong or Godzilla or whatever. And we had Zachary on Saturday nights showing us horror films. And I was, collecting comics and joined the science fiction book club before I was a teenager. So This has been lifelong for me. I'm one of the generation whose mothers threw out their comic books and started them all becoming valuable in decades.
Do you owe the Sci-Fi Book Club money? Is it like do you still owe the Sci-Fi Book Club money? I think I still owe them some money.
Yeah, probably do, as a matter of fact.
I loved the Sci-Fi Book Club because they would send you these titles and you never knew what was going to arrive, and it was terrific. I love that, and there were so many interesting books coming out in the 70s and 80s too, and then of course the 60s. So Jeff, you were a fan of all this stuff. But how did you end up? Obviously, you became a professional working in this field. How did that transition happen, and sort of what was your journey like?
It's actually a pretty long story, but I'll try to
distill it down.
Yeah. I mean, I first worked at Warner Brothers when I was 15 in the summer, over the summer in the mailroom, and actually delivered mail to Jack Warner. And so there's where my connection to Warner God,
Brothers. That's amazing. What was he like? I mean, did you know him at all?
Not much beyond the thanks, kid, or what do you got for me today, kid, that kind of thing. And he was based out here, so this was only when he was in the New York office. But it's still something that that I both experienced, and I'm probably one of the few left who actually knew the man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was during the Virginia Woolf, Camelot, Havoc, and the Dave Clark 5 movie. Those are the movies that I worked on then. But honestly, I was at NYU School of the Arts and as an actor, and in '67 came out here to see if I could break in. I did a bunch of TV and movies during that period, but between gigs, I started writing reviews for various magazines because it was the only way I could get records and go to concerts and see movies for free. So that was essentially my entree into it. And I was for much of the 70s, I was in the music business. I was the head of publicity for Island Records here, and broke part of the team that broke Bob Marley here during that period. And so,
it was so interesting because I think I mentioned to you, I was reading Cameron Crowe's wonderful new biography or memoir, and all of a sudden I'm on chapter whatever it is, and he starts talking about you and Kim, and I'm like, oh my God, that's our Jeff Walker and Kim Walker. Wow. And it was just, and I had no idea about that part of your life. I always knew you as Mr. Warner Brothers. I had no idea that you had this huge background in music.
Yeah, no, it was pretty extensive. I met Cameron when he was 15, and basically we became friends during that period. And I had a magazine, because we also covered films, but I had a magazine called Music World during that period, and Cameron wrote for it. So at any rate, when the Island Records thing came to an end, I was the editor of Crawdaddy magazine on the West Coast.
Oh, really? I had no idea. Now, I think for those of us listening to the podcast who are saying Star Trek, Crawdaddy had a famous Shatner cover where he's talking about Star Trek the Motion Picture. Even though it was a music magazine, it would often cover other things. And I remember that Shatner one, very vividly.
Yeah, I was, by the way, at the press conference where they announced the motion picture, and Kim managed to get a picture of me with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, one of my prized possessions.
What was that like? Because people forget, now that there's more Star Trek than you could, there probably should be. But back then, the idea had been 10 years, and we're all desperate to see Star Trek come back in some form. There've been all these false starts and yes and no. And then finally, it seems absolutely real because Paramount is having this press conference to announce the beginning of production. Leonard Nimoy has been signed. What was it like to be there? What was the sense of the feeling in that? It must have been electric.
That was what the word I was going to use. It was absolutely electric, and I was absolutely thrilled to be there. I mean, in that sense, just to be in their presence after all of that time. And I was, like I said, I loved Star Trek from episode 1 and saw it all the way through when they first ran. And that obviously ties into how I ended up marketing science fiction and fantasy and so forth, because comic books fit into this whole story as well. But when, just by chance, in the late 70s, founded a company called the Thinking Cap Company. The basic idea of it, which is we were going to just put philosophers and artists' name on the cap as kind of an answer to the trucker cap. And I covered at the same time I was covering Alien. I did an Alien, a making of Alien set visit for Rolling Stone, and saw the Nostromo cap, and my head went, "Ooh, that would make a great." So, boy, we're really
Jeff. This is exactly what we want to hear from you.
But we have to take this back a little bit, because the person who invited me to the Alien set was Charlie Lippincott, a dear old friend of mine. And in the annals of who brought stuff to Comic-Con first, I have a little story to tell. I was covering the LA World Science Fiction Convention in '72 for the LA Free Press, and I heard about this convention that was being planned for the following summer, whenever the first Comic-Con was. By that time, I was working for United Artists Records as their West Coast publicity coordinator, and I took down a standee for Sinbad in the Golden Age of of Sinbad.
Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yes, thank you very much. And filled it with copies of our Hawkwind album, the Mighty Groundhogs, which had a double book cover by Neil Adams, the soundtrack to the album, and the first Can album, the German progressive electronic group.
Wow.
So that was and I took a whole bunch of Sinbad T-shirts down there and gave it. And then I think within a couple of years is when Charlie brought down Star Wars to, I think, Comic-Con in '76. 75.
Yeah.
And he wrote for my magazine. I covered movies he was a publicist on, so we had and we were friends on top of everything. And so through Charlie, met the head of publicity at 20th Century Fox, Bob Gillian, one of the great mentors of mine turned out to be, and I went in and pitched him the idea of licensing the Nostromo cap. And as such, as far as I know, that was the first licensed item that was reflecting the universe within the movie, not just slapping a logo on something, since the coonskin cap in the 50s.
For Davy Crockett.
Yeah. So we were very lucky. It was a good time. And he said,
Did you say to him, let's talk about the bonus situation?
Yeah, I wish. No, I can't say there were any residuals in that at all. But so we did that, and that was a whole other story, the whole thinking cap story, because we ended up doing Star Wars caps and Raider, and it was great for a while.
I got one of your Aliens caps, and I got one of your Blade Runner caps.
Oh, far out. The Blade Runners were total giveaways, too. Those were promo items that we did.
Yeah, I got it from a radio station.
But by the same token, all the movie, well, all right, so we're jumping ahead. But one day I got a phone call from Bob Gillian, and he knew me from both Thinking Cap and Alien, and he wanted to set up a meeting to talk to me about doing that they were leaving Fox to form the Ladd Company, and he wanted me to do for the Ladd Company what Charlie did for Star Wars. Bearing in mind that Charlie and Laddie and the whole were Fox and Star Wars, they have that whole history at Fox.
Yeah.
And I jumped at the chance, obviously, and agreed to do it. And the first film I worked on 3 films for the Ladd Company: Outland, The Right Stuff, and Blade Runner. And within a week of my signing the deal with them and working for the Ladd Company, I found myself on the set of Outland, on the 007 set in Pinewood, literally directing Sean Connery to give me an opening greeting about Outland that I could show at the next World.
Wow.
Now, he was notoriously prickly. How was he with you?
No, he did it. We were fine. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I flashed back to seeing Dr. No with my brother in Tenafly, New Jersey. It was otherworldly, and it began my whole career in this. And I think what I would, and of course they were distributed by Warner, so I was working for Warner's through that right off the bat. And that turned into I'll tell another story in a little bit, but that turned into the long term.
I just want to stop you because clearly you did thinking caps for Outland, because I remember all those Con-Am hats
I did them for Con-Am. We did Blade Runner. We did a whole bunch. We did the crew caps for Raiders. We even did a blue harvest cap for Jedi.
Nice.
Those 3 movies that Lad Company did, obviously Right Stuff is a movie that probably doesn't get the attention it deserves as one of the great movies of all time, Phil Kaufman's Right Stuff. And now it's having an anniversary, and hopefully, you know, I think Warner Brothers is going to do a 4K release of that, which is great because it's just brilliant. Outland, Arrow just put out a copy, which I thought was wonderful. And I love that movie. It's the best sequel to Alien that I've seen. And then, of course, the third movie you worked on is Blade Runner. And what can you say that hasn't been said about the genius of Blade Runner?
Yeah.
And also, technically, Outland is a sequel to Capricorn 1. Because Con Amalgamant is the company that made the life support that wouldn't work on Capricorn 1.
Really? No, I didn't realize that
Yeah.
there was a little tie-in.
A little Peter Hyams tie-in there.
Okay.
I enjoyed working with Peter. I loved working on that film, and needless to be being sent to England on top of everything. But
You know what? The most bizarre thing, next to seeing you mentioning Cameron Crowe's biography, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised about if I knew more about your history, which is amazing. It's blowing my mind that I didn't know all this. But when I saw Peter Hyams in the OJ documentary,
Oh,
you know, apparently they were good friends, because in OJ Made in America, all of a sudden Peter Hyams shows up for like 15 minutes talking about OJ
because of
Capricorn 1. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But you know, anyway, that's a little aside there. So you're working for the Lad Company, and you did these 3 iconic movies. Did you stay with the Lad Company, because then they got their distribution deal with Warner Brothers?
yeah, no, they had their distribution with Warner's all along. So no, I was going out there daily, and they were on the Warner lot at that point. And I was a lot more intimately involved in Blade Runner because, one, it was shot here, and I was the one who was doing set visits, particularly with the genre press, and worked on the making of featurette that we showed at conventions. We're already jumping ahead here simply because of how the whole convention campaign sort of thing grew out of all of this. But basically, that was the one where I was present for the whole process. So I was able to see the original director's cuts, the original really, really long cuts.
And you were witness to all the problems between the producers and Ridley through that whole process. And
yeah, I was pretty much firsthand witness to all of it. I even at one point wrote a prologue for the film because I had suggested that we do something that really shows at the beginning of the film how menacing the replicants actually were, because we only hear about it until we, pretty much into the film. And since he talked about the taking over the ship on the way to Earth, if we could dramatize that before the movie started, that and set these up of how dangerous these replicants could be and so forth. And it was budgeted, but would cost over $1 million. And I think they just sort of, no, they allowed me to write it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But Filmways was not.
Yeah. I even wrote an alternative voiceover that I thought was more in the tradition of the the noir voiceover and so forth. But I loved working on that film. I loved being on the set as many sets as there were, and doing the interviews for both the press cut and the making of film and so forth. So it was an incredible experience.
Yeah. And did you work on some of the non-genre stuff like Body Heat and some of the other films that Lad Company was doing?
If it was genre, and at that point genre magazines were really coming into their own. Not only, I think at the time of Galactic Journal, I think there were 17 monthly, bi-monthly magazines devoted to science fiction, comics, horror, and so forth.
Yeah.
So I did work other genres into presentations. I did, particularly into trailer parks, which we did at conventions for like 20 years. I mean, I always thought of, but to me, back in fans were basically the internet of that era.
Yeah.
Conventions were the chat rooms.
For sure.
And that's where we could give out stuff, show stuff, give away stuff that would go home, and people would talk about it and show about it and so forth. And building anticipation and awareness beginning over a year before a film would open.
Yeah.
How did you decide on what? I mean, obviously a product of budget, but what swag you'd make for a film? Because you were like the king of swag. Particularly Warner Brothers was much better with the swag than a lot of the other studios. But how did you sort of decide what you would do and what would have the most bang for the buck in terms of promoting a film?
Well, having access to early, seeing stills and footage early, and seeing stuff that was the film. My basic idea was to follow what we had done with Nostromo, and give out things that reflected the movie and make collector's items out of it. And it was everything from caps and shirts, but also pins and insignias and any number of items that I was able to identify in the style guides or whatever that I thought would make a good giveaway. They allowed me to do. So I did have a budget to work with. I don't ever regret going over them. And sometimes, like in Batman, we were making tons of giveaways for the Batman films.
What was your impressions of Laddie? Obviously, he was sort of he's so well respected, quiet, but the fact that he was able to see what other people didn't. He was the best possible executive when you look at somebody like that who says, I don't know what this Star Wars is. It makes no sense. But I know you made a great movie in American Graffiti, and I just trust you that you see something that I don't, and that he gave, Lucas that chance. And he did that for filmmaker after filmmaker. And even though the LED company ultimately, shut their doors, they're responsible for some of the greatest movies of the 80s. Blade Runner, I mean, I put Outland up there, 1981. I mean, Right Stuff, certainly. But there's so many films that they produced, many of which were not successful, that are classics.
Nope, that's true. Where were we?
Yeah, so you're at Lad Company, where and then you ended up. Did you end up at Warner Brothers after Led Company shutters, or how did that transition work?
Well, no, at the same time, because I was working with the Warner Brothers publicity department. And you didn't ask me. Laddie, by the way, was fine. I totally comfortable in all the meetings that we had. I was never in meetings alone with him. I generally worked through Bob Dingillian and Ashley Boone, who were in marketing and publicity and so forth. And but everything else was done through Warner. So that's where we did the press kits and the screenings, and so I became very familiar with the team over there. And as the legend had it, Robbie Friedman, who was the head of publicity at Warner's, had gone down to Comic-Con because it was becoming the thing you should do if you have a comic book and science fiction film. And he tells his story, so I'm not doing anything out of school, but the fans basically put him off the stage as it goes, because he did not know that Kal-El was Superman's real name. And so he did not want to go back down to Comic-Con, and he called me into a meeting one day and asked me if I would, do what I was doing for the Lad Company for Warner Films. And I didn't work on the first Soupy, but I did work on 2 and 3, and 4 for that matter. But boy, we're really
Well, what is that like? Because obviously Superman 2 is a terrific film. I would think, is it easier to sell, for you, like a movie you really believe in, than maybe something like Superman 3, which I can't imagine what your reaction was the first time you saw it and said, how am I going to promote this to the fans, and then you also want to be completely disingenuous, about like, oh, this is what you've been waiting for. It's like not. So how do you approach something like that?
Well, there are a lot more films that probably have a clearer vision of how to deal with things like that. But in Superman 4 was the hardest to work on because of the budget was like nothing, and you could see the walls shake when you walked down the hall. Everything was just, that was painful. And in one way, adding to the pain, and then another thing, making it a singular memory was for me, is that I actually took Siegel and Schuster to see it.
Oh.
And I sat picked them up, both, got a limo, went out and picked both of them up with their wives, and we all went to see, to see a screening of Superman 4, and I was sitting between Siegel and Schuster. And as earlier, that kind of feeling when you're directing, And I also, just while we're on this, I have to say, I worked on the first 4 Batman movies for real.
I wanted to get to Batman because, of course, the thing about Batman is how it really transformed the business in terms of the launching and marketing of a movie. And you talk about how Charlie Lippincott pioneered with Star Wars, which was like sort of era 1 of transformative, and then Batman is a completely it's the world we live in now. I mean, that must have been unbelievable to be a part of that. I mean, you couldn't walk out of your house and this is before the internet, go anywhere within 10 minutes and not hear or see something for Batman 89.
Well, by the time that was happening, we had a year previous campaign that we were dealing with,
right,
with the famous controversy about the casting and all, and for that matter, being Tim being signed. And I can honestly say no one at the studios, no one in the executive producer, let's say this is not Mike Uslan, this is other people, had no idea about Dark Knight, had no idea that Robin had just been killed by the fans, had no idea that absolutely no one wanted to see a spoofy Batman.
Right.
And while neither Tim or Michael Keaton ever intended to do that, the reaction to the fans to that casting was exactly the opposite. They were sure that the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Mr. Mom were going to make a comedy.
I remember that very well.
And when the great part of this is that's like gold when you know it's not. And I've seen these, I've been on the set and I've seen what's actually this is going to be like. It gave me a lot to work with, because every time we did a presentation, and Bob Kane went out on the road with me for the first 2. He was amazing. I swear he became an uncle to me. And when we first went down to Comic-Con together and put up a picture of Michael Keaton, the place just booed. I mean, this was back in the old, when it was just at the hotel, not at the convention center and so forth. And Bob had taken a picture of Michael as from Clean and Sober, and he drew Batman's cowl over it. And then we began a slideshow in which we showed all of Anton Furst's production designs. We showed any number of ways that this was not going to be what they were dreading. But in the meantime, that word hadn't gotten out. I was getting petitions. We got one from Toronto with 10,000 names on it, saying that we wouldn't see this movie if Michael Keaton played Batman.
Did all of that change when that first trailer came out? Because I remember the reaction to that first trailer was huge, because it's great.
And I was allowed to show that early.
Yeah.
And that started, I'm not sure it's the very first, but that's when trailers started being stolen out of the mail.
Yeah.
When they were going to studios. But by the time it became a frenzy a few months before we opened by that point. But it was such a fun campaign to see it turn around over the course of the year, knowing that they were delivering this wonderful movie and just kind of reassuring the fans and getting to share this stuff with them. And that was also back in the day before net, but there was when the people doing makeup and effects and production design for films were happy to show their work in advance, and directors didn't object to it. So we were able to show works in progress at convention, effects in progress.
Right.
By the time of the internet, that became, you can only show the most perfect finished shot.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because now there are all these crisis publicists and specialize, but back then it's like there's nothing like that. So I mean, you're just dealing with the crisis, which is, oh my God, the fans hate Michael Keaton. How are we going to respond to that?
Well, at one point I said, I swear there's going to come a time where you'll wish he was the only guy playing Batman.
And here we are.
Yeah, it did get a turnaround there. I'm very pleased about that. And, I'm sure he was not happy with hearing about any of the crap that was going on.
Oh, sure.
But those campaigns were certainly a key part of the whole Warner Brothers experience.
Yeah, I mean, the billboards were everywhere. I mean, it's just remarkable. I mean, and even now, I mean, all these years later, people still talk about that campaign and the publicity and just what a huge, because the entire popular culture and the zeitgeist were consumed by it.
Yeah, well, even bus shelters were stolen.
Yeah, well, I remember, as you know, I worked for Fred Clark, and of course, everybody said, where did he get all these great pictures? He used to chop up trailers to get his stills that that weren't in the press kit that nobody else had. It was because, he was using the trailers. Yeah. And I don't know where he got the trailers from. It was probably some kid at a movie theater that he'd pay, but it's crazy. So, yeah, what were some of the films for you that you loved working on? I mean, you worked on The Goonies in the 80s. You worked on, a ton of these movies.
Well, the 80s were amazing. I mean, I had a lot of freedom because we were, dealing with fans. and I was a fan, and I was able to basically do the campaigns that I wanted to do, but I can't say that it wasn't without the full approval of the people I worked for. And it was an incredible time. And because not only the Ladd Company, but because of Goonies and Gremlins, I was able to work on Amblin films throughout that. And when Amblin went elsewhere, I was able to go work on that. So I was able to do some work on Back to the Future. Right. I was able, so it was, and visiting those sets and setting up interviews and so forth. So it was a lot of fun.
And people forget you were also like the human internet, because, before you could watch any trailer at the touch of a button, you'd have to go to a convention or to a theater to see these movies, and you would do Trailer Park, where you would show all the trailers for these movies, which is, chances are that was the first time you were seeing these films. And it was and the 80s were just such a rich time for genre. I mean, you mentioned some of the titles you worked on: Gremlins, Back to the Future. I mean, you worked on a lot of those Amblin movies, like I think Battery's Not Included, and those films as well. You didn't work on any of the Raiders movies, right? Because that was Paramount.
I worked on 3, because by that time, at the end, after Batman, I basically became non-exclusive with the blessings of Warner Brothers. And even though they still let me keep a cubicle in a parking spot, so God bless them, I did work for at one point every studio, and that allowed me to put together trailer parks that could showcase things and that the fans never heard of. I could show them oddball things that they never would have seen otherwise, and put them all together. So you're not just getting one science fiction related at a movie, you're getting an hour of them all strung together. And obviously it included animation and comics and any genre that I, wanted to put in there. And and it was able to structure it so that we saved the big one for last and held an audience and showed them all sorts of stuff. And it became pretty much a staple. It's certainly in the 90s. And bear in mind that we did not have any video at the beginning of this. I was taking slide carousels and projectors and 16 millimeter versions of the trailers.
I seem to remember about 10 years after Batman, you had this movie that you were introducing that took the audience by complete surprise, and it came out of nowhere, and that was The Matrix.
Yes.
And that was huge. That was a quantum shift, because no one heard anything about it at all. And the reveal was so magical and so surprising.
We showed the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
That we did that deliberately, because we knew that just left people floored people. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's very true. And we were still, we knew what we had, but Keanu had done 2 cyber movies prior to that.
Right.
Yep. Johnny Mnemonic.
That were less than popular.
Yeah. And yes. And would they want to see a third, and so forth? So the only way to sell that was footage. And once you saw it, but I got to spend a whole afternoon with Larry. Well,
there was Wachowskis.
Yeah.
In Joel Silver's office, when they literally told me the whole story of the movie, and they had Jeff Darrow's storyboards with them, and it was just an incredible afternoon.
Were there any movies where you were sure, like, oh my God, this movie is such a hit, I'm so sure this thing is just going to not be knocked out of the park, and it failed, or vice versa? Movies that you thought, wouldn't, sell 2 tickets, and they ended up being big successes.
Well, Blade Runner did not open particularly well. And I mean, you dealt with it in your documentary, but we were up against E.T.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the philosophy of the studio is we did everything it could. Just imagine if we didn't do anything, what would happen. So at that point, you'd kind of move on to the next. And I'm just grateful that over the years, it's become such a classic and so important, in filmmaking. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, one of my my friends was an executive at 20th, and he once said to me about marketing, a great movie should never be a surprise. But I would imagine that there are some movies like Blade Runner where there's a nuance to it, right? Mm-hmm. That it's, and how do you kind of take an execution piece like that, something that we look back at 40 years ago and think, well, it was obviously genius now, and how do you look at something that's an execution piece like Blade Runner and think, well, what's the approach like with something like that?
In terms of what?
Well, I mean, just in terms of like looking at like how the audience is going to react to that, looking at like, how do you present that to the fans in a way that makes them go, oh, I completely get that and I see that, because it's not intuitively obvious when you look.
No, I don't think anyone had any idea how to, in terms of actually marketing Blade Runner, because it was actually hard science fiction.
Right.
And the people that responded to it were hard science fiction fans, and they loved it from day one.
Yeah. I
could say, seeing it and being one myself, I could relate to that. I could also see this is not a popcorn movie. This is not going to do E.T. business. And, I think The Thing was that summer as well. And
the same day, The Thing, Blade Runner and Megaforce came out the same day.
3 classics.
Yeah.
Yeah, two and a half classics.
2.5
classics. So, yeah, there's times when you're dealing for a specific audience. There's times when working on Greystoke, which I loved the movie and I loved working on it, and I loved doing a Tarzan campaign and digging up all the Burroughs and Tarzan fans around the country, and it actually ended up opening very well, but
that's my first date.
Not necessarily a home run going in.
Well, because I guess Robert Towne took his name off of it. He was so upset with and that there was a lot of controversy about that at the time.
Yeah.
And Andy McDowell's voice was replaced by.
Right. Yeah.
It was a beautiful film.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. No, it is a beautiful film. So I want to talk. We're talking a lot about these days, obviously, about Warner Brothers. There's a little bit of an elegy going on because there's so much history there. You talked about bringing mail to Jack Warner. So many genres the incredible studio lot that Warner Brothers has, and the future
the Water Tower and the Shield are some of the most iconic symbols that go right up with Superman and Batman. In my head, at any rate, from Maverick, and 77 Sunset Strip. And so there's a love for Warner's. This is another thing, just of all the studios, Warner's traditionally is the one that took the biggest swings creatively throughout the fucking history of Hollywood. Yeah. Back when, even in the silence, when their idea was to make a dog a movie star and Rin Tin Tin, save the studio.
And they were the ones who believed in sound films with the jazz singer, and they were the ones who
gave us the Looney Tunes, for Christ's sake.
Right. Who gave us the Looney Tunes. They were the ones who had Stanley Kubrick under contract and let him make whatever he wanted, and Clint Eastwood, and it's this remarkable history of betting on people when they're up and when they're down, and so obviously we're embracing all kinds of genres.
Well, like you said, they were taking deep swings while other studios weren't even stepping up to the plate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as much as we love those Paramount films of the 80s, Eisner and Katzenberg and those guys, it was all about what's a brand, what's high concept.
Sure.
It's what movies have become. Whereas what we love about movies, the art of movies, was what Warner Brothers was doing for all these years. And you see it. I mean, the fact that even at the Oscars this year, who were the big films? One Battle After Another and Sinners, 2 Warner Brothers films. Mike DeLuca is the heir of that kind of storytelling. So what does it mean to you? What does Warner Brothers mean to you as somebody who worked there for, many decades? And you worked on many of these films, and just saw the changes in the industry, going back, as a journalist in the 70s, working on these films in the 80s and 90s, just like, what does it all mean to you?
Well, it's funny. I've never understood why people keep acquiring Warners and not the other way around. It never made any sense to me. How did AOL buy Warner Brothers? But that all being said, when I first worked for them, Warner's was Warner 7 Arts.
Right.
It was then bought by the Kinney Corporation,
the shoe company.
Parking lots, yeah.
Parking lot company. But they gave him Steve Ross. Steve Ross ran the company, and he was a movie lover, and he ran it like a movie lover. And people think very highly of that era of Warner Brothers. Yeah. And then Terry, and certainly the areas that I worked with them on were amazing. But how the AOL thing came about, and then how the Discovery thing came about, and they seem to only just create debt. I don't understand.
Well, even going back to Time Warner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Forgetting the Time Warner. Yeah. So I mean, Ross is the one who did the merge and bought DC, and he was the one with the foresight, and
right.
I did some amazing things with Warner's in the 80s or the 70s, I guess 60s, 70s. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, and now, and it's hard, I mean, obviously, it's hard to know what the future is going to bring. I mean, the Ellisons and Paramount are saying all the right things.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't know why. Why does one person have to run 2 studios? It makes no sense. And after accomplishing what he did with Paramount and then wanting another one, it doesn't even. And when I was saying about it's a shame that anyone had to acquire them. But when it was the Netflix deal, again, it comes down to bigger swings. They did not have a studio, and creatively, they've taken some huge swings over the last 10 years. And it seemed to me a better match, particularly if they were going to let Warner's release the 45 films and support theatrical and all of that.
Right.
It does seem that Warner Brothers is the crown jewel of all the studios. When you look at, Columbia, Paramount, what was MGM, I mean, it's just something special, something special about Warner Brothers. Everybody seems to always covet Warner Brothers. And of course, that amazing lot that you worked on, which is just so much history there.
Well, it's funny because I was working there where I went from Warner Brothers to the Burbank Studios because Columbia had moved over there when Coca-Cola bought Columbia.
Yeah.
You remember those days?
Yeah, and the trade, the trade to get the entire lot, and the Burbank Studios water tower came down, and the Warner Brothers finally had it's kind of like when Paramount bought Desilu, and they finally got the entire Paramount lot. They got the RKO half.
Yeah.
So, it's just, you always feel like when you're in the middle of it, you're a part of this history. But, it's like, it does feel like the movie business has been around now over 100 years, and it's going through a fundamental shift, which, may never be what we knew and fell in love with.
Yeah. But we've had those revolutions before. I mean, the heartbreaking part that for me is one of the heartbreaking parts is the death of miniatures and models and matte painters and all of the effects that are going to be done by AI and not artisans. It's hard to see.
And rather than going out on a cynical note, what can we be optimistic about in terms of movies? Do you think? What is there to look forward to? Where's the potential upside?
Before we look too forward, I do want to. I have a lot of love for Paramount. I know in that sense you guys do too, and we do love Star Trek and so many other things too. So I hope for the best. I don't know what else. I don't have any predictions for the future.
Did you work on any of the Star Trek movies?
I worked on is Insurrection
A Star Trek movie?
Yeah.
Technically, yes.
Well, yeah, that's what they tell us.
I took Patrick Stewart up to this Worldcon in San Jose for that film, and it turned out to be one of the it's not a terrible experience because he was wonderful, but I got so pissed off at the fans because we did it was like come spend the evening with Patrick Stewart, and he did it was Shakespeare, it was like a class, and it was only half full. And you could see other fans just kind of walking by and just not even bothering to come in. And there were thousands of fans, and I just couldn't believe we couldn't get a couple of that. So there was a lot of writing on the wall there too for Star Trek.
Yeah, but also Worldcon is more devoted to literary. I mean, so they have a lot of these people have qualms with media sci-fi. They feel it infringes on the true science fiction, which is literary sci-fi. So
I did say, yeah, they always felt that way. When I first did Worldcon, it was mostly Doctor Who and Star Trek fans, as well as the hardcore, and the hardcore fans did not like the fan. So, but they now embrace gaming, and they embrace graphic novels, and so I think they finally have accepted media. But I did presentations, and they were always packed at Worldcons, and took guests and so forth. I thought Patrick Stewart was a fucking home run, no matter where you take it.
Sure. I mean, giving a master class about Shakespeare and about Star Trek and about Life Force, you got to love that.
And we took Marina to Comic-Con. I think that was the same year that Angelina went down for Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And then my wife.
2003 or 2004, something like that.
It is sort of an example, but it was also coming off First Contact, which was a beloved movie. So it's like the fact that people didn't know yet what Insurrection was going to be, and I think that it's just interesting because we talked about earlier what happens when you're selling something which isn't a great movie or that you don't love. It's easy to sell Blade Runner to an extent because it's a movie you're passionate about. But, you screen something like Insurrection and maybe you don't love it. Maybe you don't even like it. Maybe the Star Trek fans aren't going to love it. Does that make it harder for you to sell, or is it just a widget at that point?
I think you have to assume that someone out there is going to love it, which is pretty much true of everything. I mean, we're now at a point where you literally can market something based on you can find two guys in Toledo or whatever. You're going to love this thing.
I think that's currently the Star Trek.
Or you call Scott Mans.
The problem is only those two guys in Toledo are going to watch it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the problem first.
Well, that's where marketing
narrow
comes
casting. Yeah.
You got to find those two guys in every.
It used to be in print ads. There was always those two or three guys you could always count on for the positive blurb, And now it's like it's so funny because you can find someone for any movie that loves, the Oscar, it's the greatest movie ever made, and because there's a website that loves everything, that's going to love it. You can always find somebody. And a lot of these just want to trade for access. They just want to be, have access to these movies and these junkets and stuff. So they'll say anything. It's the greatest movie since, Casablanca. It's like, no. There's no movie that's the greatest movie since Casablanca. So it's like, but it's just really interesting to see. And what I bemoan is a former entertainment journalist who took the job very seriously, having written for, I think, very serious genre magazines. It's just now all these people who are just, these YouTubers and people who have no knowledge about film history, who are just doing it because they want to be invited. And basically will take the marching orders, whatever they're told about. Like, you can only ask this, you can't say this, you can't do this, and you have to, and they're so positive and fawning, and and over the most awful of films, it's just it's so dispiriting because I mean at the time I feel like there were so many of these even in genre that were really serious journalists who and you had it at Crawdaddy. You had serious music journalists. You had serious film and TV journalists. Now it's like the quality of the writing, and now it's not even people necessarily. It's AI that's taking and we joke about it. You can always tell when these articles or these social posts are written by AI. It's kind of embarrassing. Would you believe? It's just like, oh, it's horrendous.
Biographies written by AI. Now they get 4 different biographies of an obscure member of the Birds, for instance. And they're all written by AI.
And then half the facts are wrong because it's kind of like Wikipedia, where everything's crowdsourced. So there's no kind of sense of like, oh, well, that didn't really happen, or it's print the legend. It's like, well, if you really want the truth, you have to do the research and you have to source stuff. And it doesn't mean just repeating what other people have said. Especially we've seen that with Star Trek. So much of it is a hyperbole from the actors at these conventions, and what they're saying bears no resemblance to the truth, either because they don't remember or they're telling a story for dramatic impact. I mean, we saw it with our beloved Bill at the Saturn Awards. He's talking about, when I sang Rocket Man, I didn't even know they were going to televise it. It's like, of course you did. Of course, they had to sign a contract. You knew it was, you were the host. Of course you knew it was being televised. I didn't think they were going to show it. It's like, we love you, Bill, but obviously that's just either the memory fails or just, telling a story for dramatic effect. Because, of course, he tells the story and it's so funny and so compelling and everything, but it's not true.
He pays it, and then he pays it off with the.
Because even he's given interviews in the past where he said, yes, I, would approach it and by I would be drunk, and it was like a performance piece. It wasn't like I was really singing. And then he says, well, they approached me to sing, but I wasn't really a singer. And it's like, you had 3 albums out already.
I think I have them. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so was it the same? You didn't know they were recording Mr. Tambourine Man? I love them. So, but yeah, no, Jeff, and do you feel what you did has changed dramatically today? Because obviously you're not still, doing that, but what you see people who are marketing the genre movies today, are they taking a page from your book, or is it something completely different because of the nature of the internet and the nature of the fact that agents won't let their talent do a lot of the stuff they would do with you and the interviews they would do, and it's just a very different business?
Well, in one sense, it's the conventional thing is shrinking again a little bit, and the less heat from Hollywood is on it. They're not doing as many of the bells and whistle kind of things that they did for the last 15.
Even at Comic-Con, they're not.
Yeah, no, and in that sense, I think you're getting back down to to core fans as well. The main problem that happened over that whole period is toxic fandom, which really erupted out of the internet, unfortunately, and we always had a lot of respect from the fans and not people not recording and not shooting and so forth and so on. But once the internet came along, for the first couple of times that worked positively for movies like 300 and Iron Man. Letting the fans go crazy, uploading stuff worked. But after that is when people started picking things apart, and things got and suddenly it became more about bells and whistles than
when the films got worse.
Well, yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, well, Jeff, this has been so eye-opening, and I got to tell you, I only knew a fraction of these stories about your career, and it's so interesting to me because, as I say, I've known you for a very long time, and you were instrumental in helping to promote our film Free Enterprise back in '99, to which we were very appreciative to have somebody with your experience and abilities help our little film get out there, and that was a wonderful thing. So, but I appreciate you joining us. We'll have to have you back because I know you have a ton more stories, and they're so fascinating. Scratching the surface. Yeah. And, we also want to invite your wife down because she has a new book out. The audiobook's just coming out, Lens, Women, and Love by Kim Gottlieb Walker, which is sort of a roman clef about her career as a very successful photographer. And she was on the set of so many legendary movies, including, of course, all those great photos of Halloween are all from her lens. So, I mean, it'd be great to talk to her.
She shot the first season of both Next Gen and DS9. So she has some cool stories about that. And Yeah, no, the Paramount has been wonderful. I've loved the Paramount lot. I loved working on all the Paramount films that I
No,
worked
we all do, and you know, DAREN in particular, having worked there and as a concept artist many times, he always talks about the magic of being like Norma Desmond, driving into Paramount. He even worked in the offices from Sunset Boulevard. There's so much history there, and I think that's why we're always so worried about these mergers. Is like that, you know, whether it had been when Fox was bought and what would happen to the Fox lot, but the Paramount lot is just, it's so special, and we don't want to see anything happen. And, you know, I think we've seen all the right things from David Ellison talking about, I don't want to sell it for real estate. I want to, you know, keep production in LA. I want to make sure that, you know, whatever we do, we're not going to, you know, even if we do tours and make it in, we're not going to give up the lots because we have these two legendary lots. So that's great. I have so much respect for that. And if they're true to that, then that would be, you know, wonderful, because in a way, if we have somebody who is actually passionate and cares about movies running these studios, as opposed to people who are just, you know, following an algorithm, that could be a win. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, no, it's too early to pass judgment. There's an interest, you know, how it's all happening and unfolding is unfortunate, but
yeah,
you know, the industry has survived all the other challenges.
Yeah, but it is an art form that's leaving its infancy and sort of middle age, and you know, it's sort of become
old.
It's sort of become old, you know. I mean, and it's like, you know, will going to the movies and the movie going experience that we know and treasure, you know, still be around 20 years from now? I sure hope so.
Yeah,
you know.
Me too.
I mean, you read all these articles about Gen Z and stuff, bed rotting, and how they just want to watch stuff on their phones. But you know, then on the other hand, you hear
Life
about them
Wall-E.
re-embracing physical media and stuff. So it's like all the great things you hope come back around, right?
Yeah, I've always told my kids, don't get rid of your physical media, and I've certainly I've held on to mine. Probably a little.
I got to think about you know, our departed friend and mentor Doug Trumbull, who was trying to get the movie industry to make more of an event of people going to the movies and having an experience that you can't have anywhere else. And I think we need some of that now to sort of juice this thing again, to kickstart it.
I did an interview with Doug around the time he was doing ShowScan.
Yeah.
And actually got to experience all of that. And the whole premise, I did a whole article on it, which the last sentence is basically, this is the kind of stuff that is going to have to happen in order to keep theaters alive in the future.
Exactly.
And I wrote that in 1977.
So. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, so, I miss when it was like, you know, when you go to the Ziegfeld. Obviously, I wasn't around in the 40s and 50s and 60s when you had these movie palaces and newsreels and all this stuff. But, but you know, like even to go somewhere special like the Ziegfeld and it'd be a special experience, and you know, you'd pay more, but it'd be like going to the theater. And, you know, it was even when I was really young, they would show sometimes cartoons, or if you go to the New Beverly, a great revival house now, they would show a short or something before. And it feels more special than just...
It was like going to the ballet or opera.
Timothy Chalamet's favorites.
Yeah.
I still have my Ben-Hur and 2001 and Mad World, the things they gave you, and there being intermission, and those were incredible experiences.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, this was great. I'm so glad you were able to join us. It was great seeing you at the Saturn Awards. It was a really terrific show, I thought, this year.
Yeah, it certainly was. With
some amazing guests, and just seeing Tom Cruise yell to George, "We love you," you know, that was really, that was special. And
were you at the one with Roddenberry and Lucas? Matt?
Yeah, that was my first time in California. I came out specifically. I was just talking to somebody about that today. I came out for that convention, and Star Tours had just opened, and I was my first time at Disney, so I could go to Star Tours. Remarkable. And I went to that convention,
right.
Where Roddenberry and right, and it was amazing. Creation put on a great show. Yep. It was at the LA airport, and to see Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas shaking hands and talking about how they inspired each other. It was great.
Stouffer's
that was
concourse.
The Stouffer's. That's right.
I was in junior high.
Yeah. that was and that was where I met Paul Salmon for the first time too.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was that was something. And I think that might have been the last time I went to a convention as a fan. where I wasn't invited as a guest. So, but it was really fun. Yeah, that was really history. I still have it on cassette. I recorded on cassette, and just because I knew it was history in the making.
Is the footage on? I haven't thought to look for it.
I don't think I've never seen it.
Footage is out there. I actually have a copy of it somewhere.
Ooh,
I
have to dig that up.
Yeah, it's buried in the archives.
Yeah, at Memory Alpha. So, well, listen, Jeff, thank you again for gracing us with all this time. And like I said, we'll do it again. But thanks so much for joining us.
I was happy. I really enjoyed it. I'd love to do it again. There's all sorts of stuff we haven't even touched on.
I can't wait. Yeah, we will definitely have you back. This is fantastic, and
great to see you.
It's great to part the curtain and show all this stuff that's happening. That people don't know about.
About time.
Well, that was great. Wow, I always loved Jeff, and isn't that fascinating? I mean, he just like worked on some of the biggest genre movies, all of them. I mean, it was, and like I said, he was always, there were a couple of these people, Howard Green, Eddie Egan, I forget, but who were all these familiar names that were at the conventions. Avengers. They were the marketing Avengers, yeah. And so, but Jeff was always super great. Even when I was, a teenager, doing my fanzine, he was always responsive and helpful and got us a lot of great material. And that's why when I saw him at the Saturns, and I'm just thinking, it's like, oh, we got to have you on the show, because this is the kind of stuff, the archaeology that we indulge on our on Treksperts, which is all about
the archaeology,
where we've been and where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. And the past is prologue, so it's really great. But yeah, no, I mean, for all that's going on in the world that sucks, this shuttlecraft thing is good news, and I have to say Saturn's was great. And one of the things at the Saturn Awards, Isaac and I did the in memoriam, and I just have to point out that one person that was really important to me and a lot of other people in this town who passed away was the great Jason Constantine, who was an executive at Lionsgate. And I did an in memorial to him at the Saturns, kind of because I suspected that the Academy wouldn't. And while I can't really quibble with the in memoriam from the Oscars, I thought they did a pretty good job this year. They do it with a lot more reverence than they have in the past. Jason wasn't mentioned, and that was really disappointing to me. There were a couple of people that were left out, but he was an executive. And then the day after that, I watched Wick is Pain, which is this great documentary about the John Wick movies. And there was Jason, and because Jason was one of the executive producers on the John Wick movies, and he used to invite me to all the John Wick premieres and screenings and stuff. And it was just. He also championed the Saw movies at Lionsgate, and when he was suffering from his brain tumor, I remember the doctors, opened him up and they were showing him these pictures, and they're like, "What is it? This is like something out of Saw or something, isn't it?" And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm very familiar with that." And he never lost his sense of humor. Even when I saw him a week or two before he passed away, he was not in good shape. He always just had a sense of humor and a love for, it's what we talked about earlier, a love for these movies that we all love. And that's what I miss. It's that we're worried about. It's like the people in the industry don't love movies and TV the way so many of us do, that they're people who are just following an algorithm, and that's really scary.
Yeah. Well, that is a ray of hope, because I know David Ellison is a fan.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's at least a glimmer of hope for the future.
Well, Ashley's worked with Skydance in the past, and David, and obviously you've worked on Skydance projects, and so that I think we're all optimistic. We're all hopeful, and just because we're doing an elegy for Warner Brothers, it doesn't mean
we're just anxious to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's not because we're not hopeful. It's more just like it's the end of an era, regardless. Yeah. Even if things are great, it's still the end of an era, and we're just sort of looking back, and I'm glad that Jeff worked on a Star Trek movie, because of course this is a Star Trek podcast. Last time I looked. So yeah, that's true. It hasn't. So, but it is Star Trek adjacent. So there you go. Anyway, should we get out of here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Inglorious Treksperts. If you want to follow us on social, you can follow all our social links at Linktree/Treksperts+, or you can email us if you want to share your 60th anniversary thoughts at treksperts+@gmail.com. Or you can get a loud megaphone and yell out and hope for the best. And also, tickets are going fast to Star Trek Las Vegas, so we hope you'll join us there this year in August. We got some exciting things planned, and we'll be there. We hope you'll be there too. And that's really about it. So on behalf of Ashley Edward Miller, Darren R. Doctorman, and our junior Treksperts, and I'm Mark A. Altman, we want to thank you and keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course. Shh.